Man, I got it all cushy. Got the tablet here like we really talking business. Like, hold on for a second. We should put the CNBC up there, see what's going on
Right.
in the stock
See what the
market.
market's doing.
Since we're talking about finance and personal finance.
You want to close that
JP, you let us know when you're ready and we'll get started.
Yes.
We having a conversation,
Right.
friends amongst friends, since as a community, we all trying to take some type of advantage of having relationships with financial professionals. You know, hey, we're just trying to get ahead of the game, so to speak. So
Right.
as long as I can talk to people like you, we'll be all right.
Right. You know, we got to get a lot of people in our community.
Ready?
Let's do it. All right, so we've been promoting this Money Mondays. And the goal of Money Mondays is that we have a lot of conversations in the community in general about what we should do with finance and investments. And although I am not a financial professional, I did emphasize a lot of finance classes when I got my MBA. And so I've always been interested and excited about finance. And since I'm an entrepreneur, that is something that is close to me. So when you start talking about raising money and raising finances to start a business, there are strategies to that. But when we start talking about personal finances, there are also strategies to that. So in conversations online, Facebook, Instagram, where there's just general questions that people have about financing, I thought it would be good to have just a short series of professionals to come on and talk about finance questions, but in a very casual way. Because, for instance, when people are talking about what stocks to invest in, or what to put in their portfolio, or how to read their 401k, and people getting statements and they're not clear on what's going on, they feel like either they need to call their broker, and if they don't have a broker, they try to call friends, but nobody has the answer for everybody. So with that said, I figured every Monday we spend 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes having a casual conversation about personal finance, about investment, and just about money and how money works in general. So today is our first day. We're kicking it off. So JP, a lot of you all know JP. She is behind the cameras, and there's a lot of cameras in this room. And we're going to make it very informal. We might even take a question or two. We're doing Facebook Live right now, so you can follow us at Artist Keith at Facebook Live. At Instagram Live, you can follow us at Only1JPCEO, because she's streaming live on Instagram, and also you can go to Unheard Media, where she's streaming internationally right now. So again, we'll talk about a few basic finance things. We won't hold you all day. Right now it should be about 5:30, 5:35 Central Standard Time. And I want to introduce our first guest. He's a financial advisor and one of the many financial investors that we're going to bring on the show every Monday. I guess this is a show, a conversation, what have you. His name is Chris Harrell. Chris Harrell is based in the St. Louis area, but he deals with a lot of financial and insurance-related issues and products across the country. So without further conversation and to do, Chris.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing, Chris? So I appreciate you making time to come talk to us, and you know how you prep for these shows. A lot of you all who are watching do your own Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives and Periscope and all that stuff, so people kind of prep for a conversation. So of course we were talking before we even started this conversation, and so Chris shared he was a little nervous, and so I said, well, why are you nervous? And so maybe you want to talk about that.
Well, I told him, I said that, having the conversation, I told you that basically I'm nervous. I'm not nervous just because of what might come out of my mouth, but I'm nervous because the issue is so important.
That's right.
And it's important, and I want people to be able to, I want this conversation to have value. I want people to take away from it and have something that impacts them on a short-term and on a long-term basis. I tell my kids, I'll tell my family members, I'll tell clients, basically the actions that you take today will directly impact what happens to you in the future.
Absolutely.
And that happens, from generation upon generation. The decisions that you make financially will have a impact on the way your children are exposed to different things.
And it seems so easy to make a bad financial decision. Like, you know, if you don't know something, you're like, oh, maybe I should try this, and next thing you know, you've lost some money, or, you know, it's been a bad investment. So it just seems that a lot of times you need advice.
You do. Well, and I'm glad you said that.
Good advice.
Well, yeah, exactly. Good advice. But you also want to understand this. Just like you said in the intro, is like nobody's ever going to have the true key to everything. Nobody's going to know. Nobody knows what the Dow's going to do tomorrow.
Right.
Or if they do, let's go meet them.
Right.
But the problem, what you have to go into investing is to simply understand that there is a possibility of loss, and what will you do in the event of loss?
Okay.
What is going to be your emotional reaction, and then also too, by going into investing, what is your financial situation right now,
Okay.
and what can you commit to investing?
So you're saying before you even talk about what stocks you want to invest in, what kind of portfolio you want to build, you need to have a good grasp on how you manage your personal investments, how you manage your debt, how you save income, how you grow your money. Is that
You want to have you want to have, and I remember we had talked about philosophy. You want to have an understanding, or is my foundation covered?
Okay.
So you typically, if you sit down with a financial advisor, he'll tell you 6 to 9 months worth of personal reserves needs to be in place before we really start putting money away. So what you want to prepare yourself is
So layman's terms, 6 to 9 months reserves. What does that mean?
That basically means you look at whatever you spend in a month, you want to have about 6 to 9 months of that somewhere in a liquid account. That means that when I say liquid, something that you can easily access, something that you can tap into in the event that you become disabled, in the event that you lose your job, in the event some catastrophe happens, and something like that.
So you're saying if I make $3,000 a month, from that, how much should I save from that a month in your recommendation?
So if you're making $3,000 a month, you should have, having a good $18,000, or close to $20,000,
Okay.
and some sort of liquid form would definitely be what you would need to tap into it. It's something you would have in place in the event something were to happen. So what that doesn't do is that prevents you from one, tapping into any investments that you may have already had going, that you may have inherited, and two, it's the emotional strain. You're talking about it's hard to make decisions when you're under financial pressure.
Okay.
And so when you have that comfort level, you can be creative in trying to figure out what's your next source of income going to be. With that, you may have 3 different job choices, and you're not so desperate that you can make a decision intelligently of which job choice am I going to take when I know the house is taken care of.
I had some friends share with me when I was younger, and I've shared with friends since then, younger brothers, little sisters, people I mentor, and I think a good philosophy that I've tried to practice is, taking 30% from whatever you make and hiding it from yourself. Putting it in an account, and that's not your savings account. That's your stash. So you live off 70%. Yeah, that's your stash. So you live off 70% of what you're bringing in every month, and from that 70%, you're creating investment and saving goals. And that 30% you took off the top to pay yourself, you stash it over there. I don't care what you invested in, but you act like it does not exist, and you build your foundation on the 70% of what you brought in. And the reason why I thought about that, because as an entrepreneur, what I would get in the habit of, and I still do, is I pay myself last.
Oh, you pay yourself first.
But I need to pay myself first.
Okay.
And so in paying myself first, when you think about taking 30% or 20% off the top and throwing it over there, and then start to build everything you do off that 70%, to me it creates number one, you immediately have cash, and it helps you reach the savings goals that you're talking about. Again, this is just me. I don't live on this. I know you live on this, but this is my philosophy that I use for my personal finances. And again, you have to be your own biggest advocate. So it's up to you to create a strategy, or platform, or a philosophy that you believe in that works for you. And so for me, that's been my goal, is like, hey, look, pay yourself first, because if you pay yourself last, you got a good chance of not having any money left.
Right. Well, that's a good strategy. So definitely 70, living off 70%, living off 50%, between 50 and 70 is a great strategy to have. So you're really on the right road. A lot of times we have to take this from a more personal perspective. What are your financial goals?
Okay.
You know, what are you looking to achieve? When I teach class, 'cause I teach finance classes for university and for colleges in the St. Louis area, and a lot of times I'll ask them, sometimes, because I teach a class that actually try to teach consultants, to teach you how to be a consultant.
Okay.
And sometimes you sit down with people and they don't know even how to develop a financial goal. But you have to try to determine what your financial goals may be, and then that way you can kind of determine exactly what those percentages are going to look like. Because you stacked away 20. Well, you're very intelligent, brother. There's a lot of
Hey,
intelligent
man, I
people.
appreciate that, man. I appreciate some people might not believe that. I'm telling you, I believe it. I'm going with what you said.
Right. So there may be people out there that have an aggressive goal that they need to put a little bit more away, and then they also may need to reduce the amount that they live off of. It's amazing. It was a brother that I met, and he had he was working on getting a franchise. And when I tell you this guy drove a jalopy and a half, my car isn't brand new, but I mean this car was like blah. And I was just so impressed of how simplistic his life was, because he had a goal. He had a goal, and so in a sense like that guy may be taking in $100, and he may be living off 30 to 40%, and he may be putting away a lot more. And as an entrepreneur, you have to know what's going to be liquid and what's going to be geared towards investments.
That's right.
Because if you get an investment now, and investments, if you take it the Warren Buffett way, they're buy and hold. You pretty much you give companies time to kind of weigh out the storm, get themselves through the business cycle. They get through the troughs, and they get through. All of a sudden they start to get on the upside, and they grow. You give them that time to do that. So in doing that, a lot of investments you need to kind of leave alone.
Okay.
Just step back and just watch it, grow, unless something, just makes that,
Catastrophic.
something makes that determination.
So since you brought up investing, it's funny. I love having conversations like this with people in general. There's some people I know who do it, wealth management, every day, and there's some people I know who have it as a hobby. Who have TD Ameritrade accounts and they like to trade them. Then there's some people who are just trying to make sure that fundamentally they're able to save. And so this conversation always comes up where people are talking about investment philosophy. And I remember for years, probably dating back to when I was 21 years old, I would talk to investment brokers, and essentially they have a philosophy they want to give you. A lot of times that philosophy is based on them getting commissions from products. Now, right now, people have fiduciary responsibility, so that the dynamics of how people give financial advice has changed.
Right.
But it wasn't until 2008, 2009, when the market crashed again, where I had to actually adopt a real philosophy for self-preservation. And that philosophy for me, and we could talk about how you speak to your clients, but that philosophy for me was, when I was looking at things to put in a portfolio for investing, I was looking at equity, and I was looking at equity, stocks, and specifically what I did was I looked at that time, there were local companies, but not only local companies, so that was a very weak criteria, but I wanted companies that had low debt. I wanted companies that had high cash on hand. Okay, I wanted companies in my portfolio that paid dividends consistently and well. And most importantly, and this is when you mentioned Warren Buffett, there are a lot of people, he's not the only one, but Warren Buffett in particular sticks in my head is, buy stocks for companies that you understand and believe their business model is successful and effective. So in my portfolio, if I'm looking at what Apple is doing, the stock Apple, and if Apple drops 20 points because of bad news, because in our market sometimes bad news impacts the stock and not necessarily value,
Right.
I'm going to look at it and I'm going to buy more. As they say, hey, you buy low and, and you sell high. I'm going to buy more because I believe that Apple's business model is a good business model. And so when I look at that, I'm saying, okay, I know they're not going anywhere. What's a measure for me? well, I'm looking at how many people are using Apple products.
Right.
I'm looking at what the leadership is doing. I'm looking at, okay, maybe they had bad sales for this phone, but they got great sales for 5 other design phones. So you look at the big picture, and you have to have a philosophy. With that said, those are the philosophies that I use to buy stocks to put in my portfolio. I know it's not all about investment philosophy, but what are philosophies? So explain more of what you do as a profession, and then kind of talk to us about philosophies for not just personal savings, but also investment and risk mitigation when it comes to your money.
So let's, if okay, can I bounce
Do
off?
whatever you need to do.
So I want to
bro.
bounce off
Take a
of
sip
what,
of this.
let's bounce off of what you just said, which was a great philosophy, because you took a company that you understood, you're familiar with their products, you know,
I use their product.
you use their products, and that kind of leads you and guides you to kind of periodically check on the company, kind of see what they're doing, what are some of their new investments like, what litigation is impacting their bottom line. So you're doing a good thing. But one thing that people have to do as you establish that type of philosophy, you got to understand that every company, you're not going to follow or be involved in every company like that.
True.
And you want to have, in a sense, a diverse portfolio.
No.
So you may have.
What do you mean by diverse portfolio? I'm telling you, man, keep this in simple terms for me. Diverse portfolio.
So you have a certain amount of stocks, and you may be following, technology because you're in tech. It's like, hey, I'm just watching this tech. But there's other sectors out there. There's retail sectors, there's pharmaceutical sectors, there's oil sectors, energy sectors. So you want your hands in several different buckets. And so if you're in a company where you're not maybe following them as intently as you are with Apple, maybe you would establish some sort of strategy with your financial professional and say, well, if this stock goes down 20, 25%, then we're going to get out of it, and we're going to use that cash, and we're going to go and maybe look for someone that may be doing a little bit better. Now, you also want to figure out why that company is going down.
Or your philosophy might be, hey, look, it's 25% down. Let's figure out why it's down, and then let's buy more.
Let's buy more.
Because
they may
depends on your philosophy.
You're
Right.
buying low
Right.
and
Selling high.
selling high. So you're going to determine with your financial professional which is the direction that you want to go with the stocks that you're dealing with, and every stock is going to have their own fingerprint.
Right.
Every stock, every mutual fund, every ETF, everything is going to have their own their own fingerprint. And so you want to be, like you said, you want to be knowledgeable to a certain extent of what you're invested in. You mentioned earlier about 401ks. And I hope I'm staying in line with what we're talking about.
We talk about whatever. It's
right.
flow.
So you talk
if
about.
you see any questions out there, JP,
Right,
let us
right.
know. We don't mind answering a question or two.
Right.
You have one.
Okay.
So
We'll answer that in about 5 minutes.
So we talked about the 401k, and you have so many people that, one, they're excited and happy about pushing money into that 401k. Hey, you ask them, say, what are you doing about your 401k? Well, I have 5, 10, 6% going into my 401k. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's got to go a little bit further than that.
Right.
It's got to go a little bit further.
That's a lot of trust for other people.
It's a lot of
I'm
trust.
just putting my money there, but it's cool. Like,
Right,
nah.
because if you got all your money going to a stable value, which i.e. is mainly a cash-oriented position, then you're really, inflation is eating you up, and so you're actually, in a sense, theoretically losing money.
Yeah.
So you want to be able. So in what the market has done, what the street has done, wherever you want to say,
Whatever you wanna call it.
Whatever you want to
call
so
it.
they put together target date funds, and so these are funds where they actually kind of create an allocation for you based upon when you expect to retire.
Man, you keep using these big words, man. What does allocation mean? Come on, man. People out here looking. Some people know what. But yeah, come on, man. Help us out.
So when you say allocated, just take a piece of the pie. Just take a pie, and then you break it up in different sections, and the allocation determines just in what, how much in this particular section are you going to have. So you're going to have this much in large cap equities. You're going to have this much in mid cap equities.
So this is the diversification
Exactly.
that you're talking about.
Exactly.
And essentially with diversification, you're mitigating risk. You're trying to do things that help you grow your money but reduce your risk of losing money.
Exactly, because
All
if
right.
one sector kind
category
of falls, the other one is less likely to be going the same direction. Not saying it can't, but it's less likely. So you wanna kind of have that balance always going for you, and so you don't want to be too concentrated in one particular area, and it pretty much blows your whole portfolio away.
So tell me this. So in your profession, when people come to you, your particular target audience, what do you find is the area that you have to work with them on the most?
Fear.
Fear. Okay.
Fear, but
fear
see,
paralyzes you in a lot of spaces.
But that lets you know my target market.
Is it fear of losing what they have, or fear of not being able to reach to be able to reach where they want to reach?
Losing what they have.
Losing what they have.
And the reason, I've got a lot of clients, and a lot of clients that make a very good living, but just haven't been exposed to the market, or haven't had much experience in the market, and so it's foreign to them, as it would be anybody.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what I try to hold as my niche, is just try to make someone feel as comfortable as possible. One thing I say, a long time ago, I used to work for E-Trade.
Okay.
I don't know if I should say that. But
Do they even exist? They're still around? Yeah. Right.
So I worked for this online broker, and I was young, and I was nervous, and I said, man, I'm just nervous because I'm going to be talking to people that's going to be everywhere, and especially you get somebody pull up and count, and all of a sudden it's got $1 million in it. It's like, this guy knows what he's talking about,
Right.
you know. So you practically want to listen to him more than you talk.
Right.
And I remember this older guy. He had about $2 million in his account, and we were talking about day trading. And I just realized this man didn't know what he was talking about, you know. And I was like, and so, but he sounded confident. And so one of the things,
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't, and that's one of the things.
That's why we're doing this video. You don't
That's
know.
one of the things that I urge everybody, when you sit in front of that advisor, that financial professional, do not feel like you have to present yourself as this person that knows everything. The smartest people ask the most questions.
Yeah, that's right.
The smartest people ask the most questions.
But also make sure that you're preparing yourself and gathering as much information so you can be your own advocate.
Right.
Because when it's all said and done, people are I think like doctors. They're practicing. They have a strategy to help you make more money. But if it fails, what they tell you is, oh, I'm sorry it didn't work. Let's try something else. But that's your money.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's your money.
And does this fit your financial goals?
Right.
Because this, you know, in this industry and in my profession, you know, the key is I can earn you 12, 15%, 20%, and you might be happy. You might be, hey, Chris earned me a lot of money, I'm doing good, and you're feeling good about that. Well, I could be working with someone else, and they could be very stressed out, because they could be new to investing. And if I just sit back and say, oh, don't worry about it, don't worry, you're good. Well, you just spent a whole lot of time just nervous and stressed, and you lost a lot of quality of life. See, quality of life in finances is important, because you don't want to spend your working days and your retirement days just worried about. So you want to be familiar about, like you say, be your own advocate, know about what you're dealing with. I tell people all the time, YouTube and Investopedia, I use them wholeheartedly.
If you don't know about Investopedia, Investopedia is your friend.
Right.
Not only do they give you step by step, they give you video, they give you all kinds of things to help you understand and digest. And I know everybody's not at the same level of comprehending financial terms and things, but I'm from the school of, if you got too much money to count it to understand yourself, you got too much money. So you're never too young or too old to be able to learn about money.
And Investopedia, what happened with Investopedia, what they started doing is they started making little videos.
Yeah.
So if you're reading it and it's still not making any sense, you got a little cartoon.
Yeah.
So I definitely
When I was
appreciate
taking my
it.
MBA, I used Investopedia because I was like, man, I took it, like I said, I emphasized finance class because that was what I didn't take when I was an undergrad.
Right.
And so anytime I was going over something, I said, let me get a different perspective. Because some teachers teach a certain way, some teachers teach another way, and you get a different perspective, and you say, oh, okay.
Yeah.
all right, well, that makes more sense. What was the question, JP, that somebody
So
had?
we have a few now.
Got a few questions now? Okay,
Yes.
we'll address a few questions, and then we'll give you some contact information where you can reach out to us, and then we can put you in touch with Chris. And again, we'll have some more financial advisors and experts on this, but we think that it's important that we all take a collective effort in our community, which is the whole world, to learn more about investing in finance. So what's the first question?
So the first question is, what are your thoughts about trading apps? Do you think they're safe?
Trading apps? Okay, so, I mean, what do you think? I mean, they got apps out here, some companies, would you base it on the company that developed the app or the function of the app? You know, so for instance, if TD Ameritrade had an app that you use, you know, is that more in your favor or weighted better than if Turn Group came up with a financial app? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because they have, you know, they have a bigger portfolio and they have, you know, a bigger company. Does that
Yeah,
matter?
so-
What's your opinion? We're not holding you to this. We're just saying, what's your
yeah,
opinion?
I understand, because I couldn't, because I'm not a tech professional, and that kind of leans into, the safe part leans into the technological piece of it.
Well, since you got two tech professionals
Right,
here,
and-
I'll say this before you answer the question. Anything that a person creates, another man can compromise. So anything that a
Right.
man can create, another man can compromise. So with that, there's a lot of safe places, a lot of safe things you can do, a lot of ways you can encrypt things. When it's all said and done, the possibility that something can
Right.
be cracked or hacked is there. So
Right, exactly, and it may be a situation because I know the app is right there for you. It gives you an opportunity to kind of like, you know, along with other different people have different, you know, new companies now have different websites and things that you have, you know, mobile access to. So maybe it's a strategy to take a small bit of money and maybe use that app for research.
okay.
And things of that nature. But as far as taking your full retirement or, you know, and opening this app and funneling money through that app, I can't speak to that. I can't speak to
I can speak to it.
Yeah, I can speak to
send
the
send us all. If you need some help, send us all your retirement money, and then we'll figure it out once it gets here.
We'll figure it out.
I'm
We'll
just
figure
kidding.
it out.
Give us another question, JP.
So, what are your thoughts on Forex?
Forex.
Yeah, so foreign exchange trade. So what I think, and I got some friends that are really heavy into Forex now, and I'm proud of them
Okay.
because they're up all night studying this stuff.
It's amazing when
yeah,
you get
yeah.
people to study.
Exactly.
We study in school. Now you want to study.
Well,
Okay,
and
but that's
I'm-
cool. That's
and I'm
cool.
proud, but because you know what, they're seeing success.
That's right.
They're seeing some, you know, some progression, and they're learning a different aspect of investing. See, that we have to. When I say diversity, we were just talking about local stock market, but we have to start learning other aspects of finance.
That's right. Because you can grow money a lot of ways.
Shout out! Can I say shout out
Anybody.
to Amos Johnson and
Okay.
Tony Dickinson?
Okay.
But yeah, so we have to have those brothers always. Hey, let's talk about
That's
Forex.
what's up.
So you have to learn different aspects of investing, and so we're talking about real estate. Real estate, that's an investment.
That's right.
Forex, foreign exchange market,
Yeah.
those are invested. National equity markets, Canadian markets.
Mergers and acquisitions.
Exactly.
You know,
So you have private placements.
Yeah.
You have to learn. You have to be familiar with this, and then you'll start seeing the community that you care so much about. You'll start seeing it grow. Because we're not the way this global society works. We're not just tied to the New York Stock Exchange.
Right.
We're tied to a whole big thing. So definitely with the Forex, I'm not a registered investment professional in that industry, but learning that industry, yes, please learn it. Please learn it if you want to tap into it. Hey,
Any other industries you suggest people become more familiar with?
just some of the ones that we mentioned. Real estate is that,
Yeah.
you know, an old philosopher, old gentleman I used to talk to, always say that real estate, the stock market has always been the most consistent as far as investments are concerned. But definitely learn some other aspects because everything is tied to your portfolio. Because if you've got insurance, if you've got a bank account, believe me, somehow, some way, your dollar is tied to some investments that you're not familiar with. So it'd be good to know exactly how your money's being
It's
invested.
funny how you learn things as you get older. You again, it's with some things that are right before you, you don't think about as a philosophy or at least just as a practice. I used to always think about grabbing small pieces of property here and there. When I first moved back to St. Louis, a guy from Detroit helped me get my first piece of rental property, and I learned from that. And I said I wouldn't get back in that game, but I started looking, okay, so maybe I grab a piece of rental property here and there. And I heard somebody say recently, I never heard anybody say it, but it makes all the sense. It says, if you want to make money quickly, if you want to grow from a real estate position quickly, you buy the worst property in the best area.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be, okay, you can get, you get a volume of this. He said, you can do a lot of things, but you can practice and try different things. His philosophy was, buy the worst properties in the best area, because the comps in that area help. And once you fix your property or whatever, then it helps yours achieve a higher value much quicker than you kind of trying to take these other sections and grow them. It's a little different dynamic, but it's
a simple strategy.
It's a simple strategy.
It's a simple strategy,
and both strategies work.
And it adds to when we talked about philosophy, which I failed to mention, is that having more than one stream of income. So you talk, so you talk.
I'm a believer in that.
Right. So you talked about investments. You talked about when you looked at investment, you looking at how you allocate, or going back talking about how you allocate your portfolio. Where you're looking at different, you may have a sector or a part of your portfolio that is dividend-based stocks, where most all these stocks right here are generating a certain dividend, and you may set the yield. I'm only buying stocks that have a 2% yield, 3% yield. And that's what you're doing.
I be reading my mail.
Exactly. So when you talk about real estate, talk about forex, you talk about mutual funds. You may have a set of mutual funds. You may have stocks. And you have those different things going for you. So if one goes down, one is taking care of the home.
Hey Chris, we appreciate this. Is good information. Let's take one or two more questions, because we don't want to be here too long.
Another question is how did you get started in the financial?
So I've been in the financial industry since the year 2000, and how I got started, it was my best friend in 8th grade. His mom worked for A.G. Edwards, which is now matriculated into Wells Fargo.
Man, you dropping all names in here. I don't think they're paying us for those names.
True.
Go ahead, man. I'm just kidding.
So we were sitting around the kitchen table, and she said, they sell penny stock. So I didn't have any money. I said, penny stock. And I literally started looking at the paper periodically to look for these stocks. She showed us where the stocks were at in the paper, and I started looking for the penny. You start looking for it. Now, take in mind, we're not promoting penny stock, because that's a highly volatile area, and some companies don't even allow you to buy penny stock anymore. But that's how I got started. Once I got into the industry, once I found a profession where, for one, everybody needs what I provide. Everybody. That's the beauty. And then on top of that, my only intent is to help you achieve your goal. There's anything that I do shouldn't negatively impact you. I want to bring value in every interaction, every situation, and so it was a no-brainer. It was just a no-brainer. So I got the Series 7, my 63, 24/4. I had my master's in finance, and I just
a lot of numbers, man. That's street gang life.
Well,
what you talking about?
So
help us understand what some of these are, man.
So the Series 7 is just.
You said something like rolling 60s or something. Whatever you said, I don't think that's I don't think that's a license, man.
So Series 7 is just really an equivalent, not equivalent, but it's the same as the bar to a lawyer. It kind of helps us, begin to be that investment professional. 63 is just one that talks about blue sky laws, and everything that sort of gets technical. 24 is just.
What you're saying is you have the proper license and
there
training.
We go. Thank you.
So
brother.
when people come to you, you just not like Keith Turner saying, "Hey, look, this is what I've been doing."
Right.
You're like, no, I've been trained and validated by a board of folks
right.
who said this is the proper criteria. Keith talk a good game, but if you want to spend that money, come talk to Chris.
No, that's not true, because let me tell you something. Now, you can study all day long, and you can still, if you don't have someone's best intention, or best interest, then you're worthless to somebody.
Hey.
So somebody who's been through that and willing to set and to set up a conversation like this, you hold more value than somebody who may have got 15 licenses.
Well, and to that point, in addition to that, there are a lot of people who are professionals that don't have great philosophies. Again, sometimes they're the beneficiary of everything. For instance, and I know this is a big example to use, but with Bernie Madoff, people act like Bernie Madoff took advantage of people who weren't bright. There were some very bright individuals. On any given day, I volunteer with kids on the weekends. A lot of people know that. But on any given day, you can be out hustled. You could be hustled by a lot of people and a lot of things. So on any given day, my point is that you can be at your best and they can be at their worst, and they can still catch you slipping. And Bernie Madoff caught a lot of people who were maybe well-intended, maybe not, but who thought they understood the financial world, and they thought they understood money, and he took advantage of it.
He did. So in a situation, if you find yourself in a situation, what I always say is, you go with your first mind, go with your third eye, go with your gut. If you talk to someone, probably a few minutes, you can kind of get a feel of who that person is and, you know, what their intentions may be. And if you have someone that really is, you know, you're meeting for the first time and they already have you in this an investment, then you may want to get a second opinion.
Well, and that's what I look at it like.
Right.
Everything that's important requires a second and third opinion, as well as for you to read some stuff on your own. So,
right.
Yeah, when people, I figure like this, you know, you run into this with a lot of physicians that, you know, not all of them, but some of them, if you ask them questions and they get a little excited,
Mm-hmm.
it's because they feel like you shouldn't be questioning them. But it's not about your health,
Right.
because nobody values this. Nobody is questioning your training.
Right.
It's about people being advocates for themselves. So you should be able to ask as many questions as possible to a physician or somebody who's making your financial investments.
Right.
And that person should be able to explain it to you like they're 6 years old.
Right.
In the
And
simplest
it's-
form, that lets me know you understand.
And it's really iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
Because if you're coming to me with some questions, as long as I've been in the industry, that doesn't mean I know everything right.
That's right.
You know, every doctor goes back to the books, every lawyer goes back to the
In
books.
technology.
Yeah.
People something to say, hey, you're in IT, right? I was like, you know how big IT is?
Exactly.
What exactly are you trying to do?
Exactly.
You know,
So-
it's huge.
And so you will see, and I'm telling you, I've seen it so many times working with firms. You'll see that guy when he'll get that question from that client and it stumps him, and how excited he is, like, yo, boss, okay, he wants to do this, and that's the exciting part about this industry,
Okay.
because now we're putting these pieces together. Because this person wants to retire at this place, this person wants to have enough money for this person has this going on, and this person has this, you know, that's been in the past that's still coming to haunt them. You know, how do we, you know, secure all this and then make sure we still achieve this goal? That's exciting.
That is.
To try to figure
And
out.
it's important.
It's important. And it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
It may not be taken care of in the first 5 years. You may have to keep going and revisiting that plan because things change.
Yeah.
Your financial situation evolves.
We'll take one more question, and then we're going to talk to you about one last topic, and then
Okay.
we'll wrap this up.
Okay, the last question is, you just mentioned something about getting a second opinion. How do you do that without offending people?
Let me tell you something about offending people. You know, look, now you can answer it, and I guess people who know me already know that I can be pretty direct, and I think people should demonstrate a lot of emotional intelligence with how they treat people. But when it comes to your health, be it your financial health,
Right.
there's not hurting people's feelings. Their job is to put you in a direction that helps you grow money. And if by asking questions to one or multiple people, they get offended, then they need to get tougher skin. Because again, it's about growing your money that you've saved and earned, or if it's, you know, talking about your health, it's
Right.
about prolonging your life and having a good quality of life. So, you know, I say I'll just address that and say, you know what, it's important to be sensitive about other people's feelings, but it's more important to be sensitive about your pockets.
The reason why I'm laughing, that's great. That's great advice. And one reason why I'm laughing is because I can just picture, I don't know what this person looks like, I can just picture how they're feeling. Understand this, if you go get a second opinion, that person doesn't know what you're doing.
Right.
That's that person feeling kind of guilty.
But when you pull that money out of there, though.
Exactly, which is well, that's a different scenario. But yeah, so that person just feels guilty because they're talking to someone, and then I'm saying I'm going to talk to somebody else. You don't want to feel like, you know, you're not listening to that person at first. That person, for one, you go talk to someone else, they don't know who you're going to talk to. Now, if you talk to someone else and you realize that the current advisor that you're with or the current professional that you're with is not and you have your best interest, then you have to tell that person that I just want to go a different route financially. I want to do some different things.
You know what?
And you don't owe anybody
Right.
which direction you're going to. You
Right.
don't owe anybody. I mean, and I'm never going to advocate lie, but if you want to just consult with your uncle, your dad, or whatever, say, me and my dad were talking over some things, and hey, we decided we're going to go this route.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
I immediately went to the professional level based on the question,
Right.
but maybe they just said advice. So maybe their husband or their wife had advice, and then they went to another friend and got
Yeah.
advice. So the dynamic could be totally
It's
different.
open.
And when it
Yeah.
comes to that, if that happened to be the criteria and some of the complication in it, then just scratch my answer, because you need to go with what your husband or your wife says. And if you end up broke, at least you broke together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So we need a bit more context in
That's
that
right, that's
scenario.
right.
But like I say, don't feel, if you are concerned about what's going on currently or what you intend on doing as far as investing, you have every right to seek out different areas or different mindsets or different thought processes of finance and see what fits you.
I mean, why did you drink both waters halfway down? What? I don't understand that, man. What, 'cause I got the other water for me, but why would you drink them both halfway down?
I went from the one to the other.
Sorry, this is the last question I want to
Right.
address, because we haven't talked about insurance, and you do a lot in the insurance space,
Yeah.
right? But if you could take a second, explain to people what you do in that space, and then we'll wrap this up.
I'm primarily life insurance.
Okay.
And so with life insurance, you kind of tackle the term, the whole life. I can tackle strategies for businesses like buy-sell agreements and things of that nature, which kind of incorporates life insurance. Mostly my health and my liability insurance, I kind of farm out to colleagues that I work with for a long time. So I kind of trust them to that. So what I can tell you this, for those of you that are looking for life insurance, and this is one thing that really irks me, is I don't like when professionals tell you, never do this, do this. What is your financial goal? What are you looking to achieve with this insurance? And from there, you'll determine exactly what venue or what avenue you're going to take with that particular product. If you come off and tell me never do this, then to me, you're not looking at my financial situation holistically.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I just disagree with wholeheartedly. I just think that everybody should look at it from a holistic standpoint and figure out what your situation is. It will determine what's going to be the best suited product for your situation.
We'll wrap it up on that note. Chris, again, man, I appreciate it. This is something that I thought that would be a great opportunity for us to just have conversations casually about finances and investments. I know what really made us have this conversation was I had posted something
I
on
remember
Facebook,
what it was.
right?
I remember what it was.
Should if you had the opportunity,
Right.
to pay off a credit card debt that was getting about 15% interest, should you pay off the credit card debt, or should you make an investment that was about 8% guarantee, which we know there's no 8% guarantee stock equity.
Right.
But the idea was, I said in most cases, I would say, hey, reduce the debt. But to your point, and consistent with what you're saying as we close, is that look at the whole situation. Everything might be different. Maybe you do want to continue to do a little investing. Maybe you get you get some interest here while you're reducing this debt. Now, as a finite, if it's just all things ain't being equal, then you always want to reduce your debt.
Right.
But there's nothing prohibiting you from investing. Then you may want to do them both. So again, it all depends on where you want to go. I have a philosophy about investing and saving money, and it hasn't made me billions. So who cares? I mean, you may not want to take my advice. Speak to a financial professional. Chris Harrell's a financial Chris Harrell. Let me pronounce that right. He's a financial advisor, and he's a financial professional that I've had the pleasure of knowing for years. And I wanted to have him, and I'll be reaching out to other financial professionals to talk casually about how people can do different things, because ultimately we want people to be able to save more money, And it's all about, if you're making money, how much of that money are you keeping, and what opportunities do you have to grow that money? And what we don't want people doing is kind of, wasting money on things that, that really won't bring you back income. And then when serious things happen in your life, maybe a catastrophe, maybe not, where you need to pay off a car note or buy a house, or somebody dies,
Right.
hoping, not wishing that on anyone,
Right.
someone dies, you'll have enough resources in reserve where you can put something together, and you don't have to get a title loan.
Right,
You don't have to do a
or GoFundMe,
GoFundMe,
yeah.
right. And again, I'm not, it's just, we've become accustomed to a lot of things that aren't necessary, and a whole industry has grown from people who are not prepared financially. So I think the better we prepare financially, the better that we become our own advocates when it comes to finance and investment and saving money, the better off we are.
And we take on, we have to look at cultures where, they're strong in finance, and we have to start mimicking some of the things that they're doing. We have to start looking at what's coming behind us.
Absolutely.
It's instead of not worrying about it. We really need to start worrying about our kids' kids.
That's right.
We start putting a thought process to the financial capacity of kids that you haven't even met yet. That are part of your lineage. We're really putting a strain on our children and ourselves when we're having to figure out exactly how to take care of our parents, or how to, what are we going to do in order to, take care of their funeral expenses and things of that nature. But we're limiting our creativity to earn more money when we're financially stressed.
That's right.
We're
That's
limiting,
right.
and that's huge. We're not preparing. There's a financial. I've heard many financial professionals talk about. There's a financial crisis coming up, a retirement crisis, because not enough people are putting away enough money for retirement. Now it's understandable that you need your money now. I understand. I mean, if you're not making a lot of money now and you need every dime, that's fine. But you got to understand, when you get to a point where you cannot work, or you too tired to work, or it's really it's not in your best health
That's
interest,
real. That's
then
real.
you need to be able to have something financially secure in place. And so you got to think that way. So right now, when you can suffer, and when you can,
When you have the energy,
when you have the energy,
and a strong enough back to work,
then
get out here and work and stack.
and stack it, then put that money away now. So when it's time for you to relax and really rest, then you can do that, and you can have that financial backing in order to take care of the life that you want to
We'll
live.
close right there, man. I appreciate it. If you all want to get in touch with Chris Harrell, you can message me at Artist Keith, either on Facebook or Instagram. You can message JP CEO on Facebook, or you can message Only One JP CEO on Instagram. We'll put you in touch with Chris Harrell. Again, we appreciate this gentleman for coming and talking.
Thank you, my brother.
Man, thank you.
All right.
And again, all we're trying to do is present information out here that allow people to be more fiscally responsible, and make people who are responsible for their funds a little bit more responsible. So, got any questions, reach out to us. Again, thank you for joining us. We'll be in the same place next week, 5 p.m., and we'll have a different guest. Take care.
All right.
Man, I appreciate you, bro. This is perfect. Perfect.